All right. Hello, everyone. It's Phil. Guys, I have had a little bit of trouble with StreamYard. It wasn't recording my videos and then it was kind of hiding my videos. So check the playlist, okay, so that you can find them. And I'm actually doing a re-recording of this one, and it's just a short video to complement the one that I sent already on Antigone. And we're just going to look directly at the material in the book that you have. Next, I'm going to do a one on the Paulo Coelho, okay? Because I know you guys are not probably not going to have a chance to read it. But real quick here, okay? Because the first video more or less gets into everything, but I just wanted to look at some of the stuff in the book which may show up on the test. First, we need to know the characters. Antigone, which is the daughter of Oedipus, Ismene, and I may really pronounce these names incorrectly. She's also the daughter of Oedipus. Eurydice, the wife of Creon. And then we got the king of Thebes. He's Creon. Haman, that's the son. Tiresias is a blind prophet. There's also a sentry, which is like a guard, a messenger, and then the chorus, which are the elders and shoragos. Now, did I skip something? Yes, I did. And it's before you read. Now, we talked a lot about this already, which is who was Sophocles. He was like the Steven Spielberg of the time, the Quentin Tarantino of the time. So he wrote a lot of plays. Before you read, one of the great themes about of this play is deciding what is the right thing to do, especially if the right thing to do is against the law. So think of when we studied in US history the civil rights movement, and people were actually going against the law if they were supporting civil rights because it was against the law for blacks and whites to sit together. So when is it right to do something wrong? That's one of the great themes of this play. And it takes place in Greece, okay, in the city of Thebes, which is about 30 miles northwest of Athens. And like I said, we want to deal with loyalty and betrayal. These are the things that really, really strike a chord in this story because Creon, the king, feels betrayed too. So he feels he's right. But Antigone feels betrayal, but loyalty too to her brother. Okay, and we have the um, we have this idea of the protagonist and the antagonist. And you guys should know this very well already. The protagonist and the antagonist. The protagonist is the central character, the one that the reader usually sympathizes with, which in this case would be Antigone. And the antagonist is the force against the protagonist, anti, right? Um, and this story has, well, not this story, this play has a lot of imagery, a lot of language that appeals to the senses, brings you into it, especially when you're, excuse me, when you're reading what the chorus is talking about. We do have some vocabulary. Repulse is an act of beating back or driving something away. Okay, famish is when you're very hungry. Comprehensive, concluding nearly everything. Pious, when he's very devout, religious person. And arrogance is an overbearing pride. Okay, so the play here, okay, we looked at the characters already, and it takes place at Creon's palace. And he's very happy because he just repulsed the Argive army from the assault on Thebes. And Antigone is not happy, okay, because her brother was part of this attack. And the king, Creon, decides to throw her brother's body out in the middle of a field without burying him. So this is a conflict that develops, okay? And at the bottom here, there's always these little questions which are nice for you to go back and try to, you don't have to read the whole play, but you can kind of get this idea. So she's complaining to her sister, Ismene, about this. And her sister's like, well, this is really bad, but I think it's an even worse idea to go against the king because the king gave this order that says, do not touch that body. Okay? Do not touch it because you're going to die if you do. He was an enemy of the state. And Antigone does not like this about her sister. She's like, man, you're chicken. I don't dig it. And here we have a little picture or painting depicting that. And you notice there's a lot of black birds. You see a lot of black birds in these. It's a motif. You see it even in modern movies, right? When you see a black bird, bad news. So that's pretty much the beginning of this. It's that, okay? There's the two of them talking about why Antigone wants to go out and bury her brother, why Yasmin says it's a bad idea, but then in the end she says, go. Um, Go then if you feel that you must. You are unwise, but a loyal friend indeed to those who love you. So there's the loyalty. So now we get the chorus. So guys, remember in Greek theater, the chorus kind of filled in the blanks. They told the story. Sometimes they let you know what's going on inside the character's mind, or they'll give you a bit of a reflection on what the character just did. So that's the role of the chorus. So they have this very long chorus there that kind of explains what is going on. And it says, at this point, do you think Antigone is the protagonist or an antagonist? Well, from what I've told you so far, guys, what do you think? So here we go, scene one. But now at last, our new king is coming, Creon of Thieves. Okay, so we get Creon coming in, and it says here, what does the image in line 33, 35 and 36 suggest about the two brothers? Let's go back. These two only, brothers in blood, face to face in matchless rays, mirroring each other's death, clashed in long combat. So two only brothers in blood. Makes you wonder if the blood was all that connected them, right? Because they were kind of fighting against one another. So let's continue. The chorus just goes on and on and on. And Creon is talking to the chorus. That's kind of interesting, right? That the characters in the play communicate with the chorus. And it says, from his speech up to line 32, how would you characterize Creon? No one values friendship more than I, but we must remember that friends made at the risk of wrecking our ship are not real friends at all. So, guys, this first introduction of Creon, we get this idea that he is, he's very much about the state. He comes in and he explains that, hey, our ship of state, which recent storms have threatened to destroy, have come safely to harbor at last. So he's giving this imagery of the government, his government being like this ship that almost wrecked, but it didn't. And it says, I have summoned you here this morning because I know that I can depend on you. Your devotion to King Laios was absolute. You never hesitated in your duty to our late ruler Oedipus. And when Oedipus died, your loyalty was transferred to his children. Unfortunately, as you know, his two sons, the princes Eteocles and Polynices, have killed each other in battle. And I, as the next in blood, have succeeded to the full power of the throne. But one of these brothers fought on his side, the other brother didn't. So the king puts out this this law, okay, that says you will not have a burial. Polynices, okay? Polynices is to have no burial. No man is to touch him or to say the least prayer for him. He shall lie in the plain unburied, and the birds will eat them, okay? So when the sentry comes in, he's like, there's problems, okay? Because somebody tried to mess with the body. And we know who that is. In the Sentry, he's just a messenger. He's a messenger. But you can tell that he's also able to give a little bit of insight about Creon and how he thinks he's a little bit arrogant. Maybe he's not the right guy to be ruling. And but at the same time, he doesn't want to get involved too deeply in this conflict of who was messing with the body. He tried to bury this body. Someone has given it burial that way and gone. And Creon's like, and a man who dared to do this, the Sentry's like, I do not know. You gotta believe me, right? Because he doesn't want to get involved in this king's rage at all. Um, and each character starts to assume their own role in this conflict. And that's what's interesting about conflict, is that you'll see people that take an active role to try to solve it. Other people are like, man, I don't want to get between this. So imagine if you and a friend got in a fight, but maybe you have a third friend that's friends to both of you. Maybe that third friend, he'll want to step back and say, man, let them figure it out. Or maybe they'll want to step in and help. So this can be something to think about when we think of conflict. How does Creon ensure the loyalty of his people? Well, by giving the law. Okay? And he also says, find the man that did this, bring him here to show the people that I mean what I say. And he asked the Sentry to go out and find this person. And then the Sentry does have a good line here, in which they ask about line 143, how dreadful it is when the right judge judges wrong. So he's able to kind of prod Creon a little bit and say, man, this guy's a little arrogant, and just let it go, right? Just let it go. Whoever buried this body, let it go. And I'm sure we could all think of current politicians who are a little bit like this, where you just want to say, let it go. So, scene two, the Sentry comes in with Antigone. And Shoragas, which is the leader of the chorus, is like, oh, what is this? It's a captive woman. Why is she taken? And the Sentry's like, because she's the one that did it. She buried Creon. Her brother Polynices. And it goes on and on. Okay, there's the conversation between this, because Creon's like, he can't believe it. So he asks, how do you know that it's her? And he explains how. And he's like, what? Did you really do this? And she says, I deny nothing. Right here in the middle. I can't highlight it for you, but she says, I deny nothing. I did it. So now we got two problems. Not only did she do it, she is very proud of it. Okay, she has this strong loyalty to her brother. And she says, your edict, king, was wrong, but all your strength is weakness itself against the immortal, unrecorded law of God. So she's going into, you betrayed God by this, um, due to your arrogance, because you cannot deny someone a burial. This is like beyond bad. Okay, you bury even your enemies. And so she's like, you're going to pay for this, not just on earth, but in heaven. And Creon is, um, he's not having it. Okay, he is talking now about pride, and how he doesn't believe himself to be prideful, but he does need to kill Antigone, because he says that this is something bad that you did. And he also wants to arrest Ismeni, sorry. I accuse her equally. Bring her and you'll find her sniffling in the house there. Her mind a traitor, crime kept in the dark. And Antigone even asks, what more do you want than my death? He says, nothing. That gives me everything, okay? And Antigone's asking him to kill her, but what he's really going to do is put her in this cave and leave her in this cave so she can just rot and die in there. But he is going to kill her. Um, um, he is going to kill her sister, and then they have this little conversation about, what about your brother? You know, um, aren't you dishonoring his memory because he fought on the opposite side by trying to bury the brother that fought against the kingdom? And she's like, man, I'm sorry, but you got to bury the dude. You just got to bury him. Okay. And Creon is trying to strengthen his position in the debate by bringing up these other points, but he's not really winning. Okay. And when Ismene arrives, Antigone, she's not happy. Okay. Because she said, you wouldn't help me. Okay. And I'm not going to help me here, because Ismene was like, no, it was all me and this. And she's like, nope, nope, nope. I want to take full responsibility for this. And they have this back and forth because, oh my God, you're my sister. I want to die with you, because everybody in these tragedies wants to die. And I want to die with you because you're my sister and I love you. And Creon is like, gentlemen, I beg you to observe these girls. One has just now lost her mind. The other, it seems, has never had a mind at all. So that's a good line right there. So he's kind of making a joke about Ismene, like, you're just a follower. At least he can respect a little bit Antigone, right? Because she's going after. She has her mind set, and she did what she did, and she's proud of it, and that's what's going down. All right, so continuing on, I'm trying to see if there's anything interesting here. There's another ode. What mortal arrogance transcends the wrath of Zeus? That's an important line, because now the chorus is kind of saying, hey, Creon, you're being very arrogant. Okay? You're being very arrogant, and I don't think you're making the right decision. So after you read, respond and think critically. Connect to personal experience. What would you say to Antigone? What would you say to Creon? Remember, Antigone is loyal to her family. She's going against the law of the land to bury her brother. What would you say to Creon, who says, hey, this is the law. He fought against us. He tried to kill us. So he doesn't deserve a burial. Okay, so imagine, I don't know, like someone from Argentina. Argentina started a war with Brazil. What would you tell Creon to do with the main antagonist of this war against Brazil? Let it go, or no? He deserves the worst. Okay? He deserves the worst. Compare and contrast belief. Why is Antigone brought to Creon? Well, we talked about that. Okay? And why? What does Antigone believe to be important? And how does that compare and contrast to Creon's values? Creon is very much for the state. How is the century different from the other characters? We touched upon it a little bit, but if you go back to those parts in a play, I suggest you read those lines and you'll see that he's a little different, right? Where he just kind of wants to set back, doesn't want to get too involved. What role does the chorus play? We talked about that. How are Antigone and Creon different? How are they alike? In some ways, they are alike, right? Because they're both headstrong and have a lot of resolve. Okay, but give evidence from the play. What type of internal conflict might Creon be experiencing in scenes 1 and 2? Right, because he is realizing now that there are people going against me. He's a new king, okay, because the brother died. So what internal conflict do you think he could be going through at that exact moment? We just got a new president now in America, I think. If there's a lot of people against him and the country was pretty divided, what internal conflict do you think he might have? How would he react to it? Okay, so there's always internal conflict. Draw conclusions about characters based on the events of scene 1 and 2. What conclusions can you draw about which character is the protagonist and which character is the antagonist? I think we talked a lot about that, okay? And there's a lot of imagery. So I suggest you read Ode 1, 649 to 650, Ode 2, page 67, 657. And if you have any questions about those, you can always ask me. But they're kind of long, and it's nice if you guys had a chance to read that. And there's a whole bunch of imagery with ships, with snow, with the winter, with birds. In the first video, we talk a little bit more about that. Okay. When you have a new word, guys, look at the context around it to try to get you to figure it out before you look in a dictionary. So to repulse, the enemy was so badly hurt that it never attacked again. So you get the idea that repulse something is to drive it away because the enemy was hurt, never came back. If you do not eat all day, you'll be famished. Our report was comprehensive, unlike yours, which contained little information. So, okay, this report had little information. Ours was comprehensive, so I think comprehensive means it's full. Pious women prayed every day. And Hannah knew of her arrogance. Thought Hannah, known for her arrogance, thought she was the smartest woman in the room. So you can figure out sometimes what words are based on the context. The ancient Greeks believed in the underworld where the dead went after life. There, the unfortunate were condemned to Tartarus, sometimes described as the deepest of hells, and would be tortured by hideous women known as the Furies. This is important to know because what a lot of people are going to die in scenes 3, 4, and 5. What is their fate? And remember, the Greeks believed a lot in fate. You guys all know what a tragic flaw is because you've all studied Shakespeare in high school, but it's just this one character trait that usually drives someone to their ruin. Okay? And it's an excess sometimes of a good thing. Sometimes you love too much. Tragic flaw doesn't have to be something negative. And archetypes are these type of characters with these tragic flaws that you see recur throughout literature in popular culture. So the loner, the guy without the parents, think of superheroes, which are to our modern Greek pantheon. So Batman and Superman and even Wonder Woman, they kind of all left their homes or they have lost their parents somehow. So they're trying to fight for justice because they've seen injustice happen to them. Maybe the Flash also. And yes, I like DC more than Marvel, so I'm mentioning all of the DC characters. Some vocabulary: deference, a respect and honor due to another person. Perverse, it goes against the reasonable and expected and desired. It's contrary. Okay, so perverse doesn't mean perverted. Okay, perverse. My dad tells me I'm perverse when I say that I want to go winter camping. It's kind of against, contrary. To absolve, to free from all blame. Prevail, to be superior in power or influence, to succeed. And to defile is to spoil the purity of, to make dirty or unclean. So back to the story. Scene 3. Now we get to meet the son. And nice scenes here, guys, because we realize that the son thinks the dad should rethink things too. And little detail, he's supposed to marry one of the daughters, which, oh my goodness, I think he's supposed to marry um, Antigone. I could be wrong, um, but he definitely has to marry one of these daughters. And I totally forgot to write down which one. So my apologies. But this creates a conflict because, well, love. Okay, he's in love with the daughters, and the dad is about to kill her, and he's like, "You're not in a position to know everything. The people say or do or what they feel. Your temper terrifies me." So he's letting the dad know that, hey, you're kind of making a bad decision here. Okay. They say no woman has ever so unreasonably died so shameful a death for a generous act. She covered her brother's body. Is this indecent? She kept him from the dogs and the vultures. Is this indecent? So the brother is really or the son is really going in on the dad. Okay. And he does it in a way that doesn't directly criticize him, but lets him know that, man, you are making a bad decision. And even the leader of the chorus says, you will do well to listen to him, king, if what he says is sensible, and you, Haman, must listen to your father. Both speak well. So, the chorus is giving the father saying he's not totally wrong, but hey, I'm the king. The state is the king. Okay? This boy, it seems, has sold out to a woman. And remember, we read about how Greeks felt about women. They are, they lead you into sin, they lead you into bad stuff. Good news here, though, is that the Antigone is actually the hero. Okay, so every once in a while, this is one of the few times where we get a female hero in a story. And Creon tells his son, you will never marry her as long as she lives, okay? Because he realizes he is in love with one of these daughters, with one of these sisters. And he just kind of says, hey, you're just in love with her. That's why you're upset, okay? You're in love with her. Go away. And the chorus is saying, gone, gone, Creon, a young man in a rage, is dangerous. Because he just made him upset. He just said, you are going to kill uh, people that he loves. Okay? People that he loves. And then the chorus comes in. And then we'll get to scene 4. And Antigone enters guarded. And she is talking kind of to the chorus, but directly to the audience too. And she's just saying, don't pity me. I'm going to be fine. And she references other stories in Greek literature. And the chorus is just kind of making out to be a hero. Like she's doing the right thing. Okay. And it's almost like her goodbye to everybody. Her goodbye. You have touched it at last, a bridal bed, unspeakable horror of son and mother mingling, because she's talking about this curse that's coming in her family all the way from Oedipus. So she's like, okay, I'm just um, another step in this curse. Okay. In Creon, he's not having it. He's like, if dirges and plan limitations could put off death, men would be singing forever. Take her and go. She's taking too long to go die. You know your orders. Take her to the vault and leave her alone there. And if she lives or dies, that's her affair, not ours. Our hands are clean. So he's not going to kill Antigone. She's going to leave her in a tomb. Okay? If she lives or dies there, that's her business. Okay? Her business. And then there's yet another ode. Let me see. Not much there with the ode. But then, scene 5. Enters Tiresias, led by a boy. He's blind. And he is a soothsayer, a prophet, kind of similar to the oracle, kind of similar to the beginning of Julius Caesar, right? Or not the beginning, but when the prophet comes in and says, hey, beware the eyes of March. So here we go. The prophet is talking to Creon. He's like, man, you made a big mistake. Okay? And he's saying how he was sitting in his chair and these birds all showed up, and birds are never a good thing in tragedies. And there's going to be a lot of judgment going on. I'm telling you, there's going to be judgment. I tell you, Creon, you yourself have brought this new calamity upon us. Our hearths and altars are stained with the corruption of dogs and carrion birds that glut themselves on the corpse of Oedipus's son. The gods are deaf when we pray to them. Their fire recoils from our offering. Their birds of omen have no cry of comfort, for they are gored with the thick blood of the dead. That does not sound good. And Creon's like, oh my God, and why? Because you left this body. You left the body unburied. Okay? So he's giving him a warning. He's like, man, you need to go bury that body, king. Okay? You need to go bury that body, because if you don't, it's going to be really bad. It's going to be really, really, really bad. And Creon says in the end, that is true. It troubles me. Oh, it is hard to give in, but it's worth it. To risk everything for stubborn pride. In the chorus, the leader of the chorus says, take my advice. Go quickly, free Antigone from her vault, and build a tomb for the body of Polynices. Do it, man. Don't be a beep, okay? Do this. It's going to be good for you. So Creon says he's going to go. So he goes. But we know it's a tragedy, guys, so it's not going to end well. Because there's a whole bunch of choruses here and there. Because what happens? Before he gets to the cave, and I'm trying to get to that part there. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot how it ends with the messenger telling what happens. The messenger says, oh my God, did you hear what happened? Okay. Man of the line of Cadmus, you who live near Amphion's citadel, I cannot say of any condition of human life. Creon was happy once, as I counted happiness, victorious in battle, sole governor of the land. He had nice children. He was well married. And the Greeks take a while to get to the point, right? So what's the news? And the messenger said they're dead. The living are guilty of their deaths. Who is guilty? Who did it? Haman is dead. The hand that killed him is his own hand. His own, driven mad by the murder his father had done. And this is my news, okay? Oh my God. So what happens? So Eurydice tells a story. I have heard something, friends. As I was unlocking the gate of palace, for I needed her help today, I heard a voice telling me some new sorrow, and I fainted there at the temple with all my maidens about me. But speak again, whatever it is, I can bear it. Grief and I are no strangers. Remember, this is the wife of Creon. I will tell you plainly all that I have seen. Okay? I went with Creon to the outer plains where Polynices was lying. No friend to pity him, his body shredded by dogs. We made our prayer in that place, and we bathed the corpse with holy water, and we buried him. Okay? And then we left. So when we were done, we ran to the vault where Antigone lay on her couch of stone. One of the servants had gone ahead, and while he was yet far off, he heard a voice grieving within the chamber, and he came back and told Creon, and the king went closer. The air was full of wailing, and the words lost, and he begged us to make all haste. Am I a prophet? He said, weeping. And must I walk this road, the saddest of all that I have gone? My son's voice calls on me. So what happened? If it is Haman or some deception of the gods, we obeyed, and in the cavern's farthest corner we saw her lying. She had made a noose of her fine linen veil and hanged herself. Haman lay beside her, his arms about her waist, lamenting her, his love lost under the ground, crying out that his father had stolen her away from him. So that answers the question. He was supposed to marry Antigone. When Creon saw him in tears, he rushed over there and he called to him, what have you done? What are you thinking that makes your eyes so strange? Oh, my son, I come to you on my knees. But Haman spat on his face. He said not a word, and suddenly drew his sword and lunged. Creon shrank back. The blade missed, and the boy, desperate against himself, drove it half its length into his own side and fell. As he died, he gathered Antigone close to his arms, choking in his blood. Okay, so he killed himself because of his girl. So that's what the messenger tells. Great story, right? Um, so the king comes, and Creon, he's just like, nothing you say can touch me anymore. My own blind heart has brought me from darkness to final darkness. Here you see the father murdering the murdered son in all my civic wisdom. Haman, my son, so young to die. He's crying, and Creon is really upset. And then there's more. The queen is dead. Why is the queen dead? Heartbreak. Her son's dead. Okay? And Creon's like, oh, pity, all true, and more than I can bear. Oh, my wife, my son. And she said that she stood before the altar and her heart welcomed the knife by her own guided hand. So everybody's dying, and that's how it ends. Woohoo! Happy ending, right? And Creon's just like, oh my god, I messed up real bad. Respond and think critically. Rank the main characters in order of how sympathetic you feel towards them. Okay? Why does Haman come to see his father? Well, we talked about that, but it's at the beginning of this scene 3. So read that if you will, but we just kind of talked about that. But if you want the details, and how does the exchange of ideas evolve into a bitter argument? What does Teresias tell to Creon? And why does Creon change his mind? Now, here's a question. Do you think that he is motivated by self interest or actual compassion? It's a good question. I think a little bit of both. I think the prophet got him to see another side of it all, but he also realizes, hey, I'm offending the gods, so it might be a good idea for me to not continue to be an idiot. Summarize the events that occurred after Teresia leaves Creon. What messages or lessons does the audience take from these events? Support your response. Well, I just gave you that. So, what do you think, guys? Compare Antigone's demeanor in scene 4 with her attitude in previous scene. Okay. Well, she seems pretty prepared to die. It's so there was a slight change, but not much, other than she's kind of resolved that okay, this is the end of my life. And explain how the House of Oedipus plays a role in Antigone. We talked about that in the first video. Uh, Let me see. Visual literacy, loyalty, and popularity. Much of the struggle in Antigone revolves around where the character's loyalties lie. Is it with the government? Is it with the state? Is it with order? Is it loyalty to your family? Okay, so here we have some charts that you can think about. Religious law, too, which is important. The king's law and family bonds. Where do you think each character lies in that? So we talked about tragic flaws, right? A tragic hero archetype is strong, often admirable character who fails to live up to his or her promise because of a tragic flaw. This may be a negative trait or positive one that is inflexible or taken to excess. Reread Teresia's warning to Creon in lines 33 and 35. What flaw does the prophet specifically identify in the king's character? Do you believe this weakness is sufficient to cause the tragedy? Well, let's go back there. We can go back there really quick. Let me see, 33, 35. I will tell you plainly all that I have seen. I shall not try to comfort you. What is the use? No, that's the messenger. We gotta go back. All the way back. Is that the warning? Yes, I believe. Ooh, the gods are deaf when we pray to them. Oh, we read this. Oh, my son, these are not trifles. Think of all men make mistakes, but a good man yields when you know his course is wrong and it repairs the evil. The only crime is pride. So he's pretty much telling Creon he thinks he's very prideful. and that because of that, he's gonna screw everything up for everybody in the kingdom. We are down here, sorry. Analyzing archetypes. How would you describe Antigone's personality? Does she have a trait that might qualify as a tragic flaw? Think about that. Does she fit the tragic hero? Or is she just an innocent victim of Creon? What do you think? Characterization refers to method the author uses to develop a character in a drama. We often learn about characters through indirect characterization, particularly through their words and actions, or in this case, the Greek chorus tells you. Sophocles wrote Antigone with the primary purpose of what? Encouraging citizens to commit acts of civil disobedience, describing the traditional burial practice of ancient Greek culture, entertaining audiences at the Greek festival, teaching the history of the famous family from Thebes, urging old and young to live and work together in harmony. What do you think about that? If you read at the top, very beginning, there's part of it that's just entertaining. Okay? Um, I'm not sure he would encourage acts of civil disobedience, um, although it does describe some traditional burial practices, but I don't think that's the main gist of it. But it could be C, guys, because a lot of it is just to entertain. It just happens to have a more moral story at the end. And finally, it was finally, yes. Practice with word parts. For each bold-faced word in the left column, identify the related word. So, guys, words kind of come from each other. Absolve, solvent. Solvent is something you can put in something and it makes it go away. To absolve, you take away someone's sins. Deference, confer. Okay, to confer, to check. Deference. After you've checked, you can kind of give deference to somebody. Prevail, ambivalence. Okay, when you're ambivalent, you're not sure of which side to take. Prevail, you end up overtaking a side. Perverse versus aversion. Okay, to have an aversion to something is this is disgusting. Perverse has that meaning too, but it also kind of means to go against. Okay, and to defile and defilement. Defile is the verb, defilement is what you get. Okay, so that's it, guys, for this video. Where's my StreamYard? Well, a little bit longer than I imagined, but if you wanted a little bit tighter, a little bit more detailed of a breakdown of Antigone, then this is it. And look for Paulo Coelho coming soon to a YouTube channel near you. Bye, guys.